So good afternoon and welcome from Brno to this championship race, round 3 of the FIA GT1 World Championship in 2010. And that's the scene on the grid with less than 10 minutes to go now to the start of this 1-hour race where the points go all the way down to 10th place today. Thomas Enger and Darren Turner we heard from saying that they hope their points count. Well, they did after their fantastic finish, coming home second behind that winner, Andrea Bertolini and Michael Bartels and the Maserati in the qualifying race yesterday. You just get points for the top 3. Today, though, massive points on offer. Alex Young alongside me, former Formula 1 driver, twice a winner here at Brno in A1 GP and itching to get behind the wheels of which cars taking your fancy this weekend?
Oh, I'd love to go in any of these cars. They're all beautiful, all 6 makes. And, you know, we're really now at the business end of the weekend. This is the race that really counts, is where all the points are going to count. And
counting yesterday, pole position for the Maserati. Let's hear from them now.
Michael, you proved yesterday that you're able to hold on to that front position in the race.
So it means not that it's exactly the same today, because I think today the starting grid is a little different, because yesterday we had in the qualification race the 2 Maseratis in the front, which of course it could help me a little bit that there was not a direct competitor next to me. But I think we are looking not so bad. It's important to arrive in a good situation in the first corner. After I think our car is quite competitive and consistent for the 1-hour race.
And Andrea, it's definitely a competitive Maserati out there. It was holding its own in the last race. Looking forward to getting out there?
Oh yes, we are really competitive. It will be really important the start. We have a lot of competitors with a lot of power, and the start will be not really easy. But we try to do our best, and we'll see at the end of the race where we are.
Thank you.
Andrea Bertolini in the Maserati then starting this race. Thomas Enger, the home favourite, will start alongside in that Aston Martin. How big a worry is it, Alex, that Aston Martin could just out-drag the Maserati into turn 1?
Well, it's not just the Aston Martin in second place. They also have the Nissan in third place. And both these cars, the Nissan and Aston Martin, have a lot of torque. And off the line, that's what you need, is a huge amount of torque. And I think it's going to be very difficult for the Maserati to keep both cars behind him. But it's going to be vital they do, because they want to win this race. As we look at Thomas Enger talking to Bertolini here, I wonder what he's saying.
He's saying, would you mind moving out of my way? This is my home country. I'd like to win the race today. No?
Yeah, I don't know what he said there, but it looked very serious. It's probably like, no accident at the first corner, please. It's my home race.
Yeah, Thomas Enger, who obviously competed in Formula 1 for Prost in 2001. Competed as well, didn't he, in ALMS in America. A huge accident a few years ago at St. Petersburg. Was in a coma after that, but this weekend and throughout the last couple of years, back on form and back in GT racing, and the crowd have turned out to see their local man. And the sunshine here with a bit of cloud around and wind once again here at Brno for this particular race. But the start will all be important. There's that Aston Martin there on the front row alongside the Maserati. That's just a little bit short on power. And well, the Maserati team was saying, yeah, we fear this Aston Martin right from the line. It's a great car, and yesterday charging through the field.
Yeah. V12 there, 6-litre engine. Let's look at that, the max torque, 700 Newton meter and 600 horsepower. It's a torque which is going to be key off the line. And you've got very experienced drivers here, Darren Turner and Thomas Enger. Very good drivers, and they've been winning for Aston for many years now.
Thomas Enger listing his hobbies as rally and internet. Let's move on. Darren Turner, his teammate, golf and skiing. And that's the other young driver, Aston Martin, Christopher Nygaard, who was spotted in shorts on Friday, the brave Dane, and Stefan Mucker alongside him in the car number 8, which starts a little further down the field. 6th row for this, but it's the front row for the leading Aston Martin, and this man here, Thomas Enger, who's with Haley.
Thomas, we've just witnessed you having a conversation with Andrea there. Is that just wishing him luck?
Exactly, yeah. We both need the luck, we both need to score points, and we both will be driving like this. We're not going to do anything crazy, I hope, But obviously the start is going to be tough because we have really strong competitors behind us. And well, let's hope we keep fingers crossed that we can all survive and finish on the podium like we did yesterday.
Thank you, Thomas.
Now I know Thomas Enger. He doesn't take it easy. He's going to be charging that first corner.
Double bluff psychology then.
Yeah, absolutely. Thomas Enger is always a flat-out driver, very dramatic. I love watching him race.
Now, this car can go flat out as well. This is the Sumo Power Nissan. Michael Crum and Peter Dumbreck, who had a much better day in the qualifying race than their teammates Warren Hughes and Jamie Campbell-Walters. They started at the back of the grid after a brake problem on the last lap. Basically, the brakes just weren't there when Warren Hughes tried to apply them. And how much of a worry is that for this particular Nissan starting from row 2?
Well, it didn't affect it yesterday, it only affected one of the cars. I'm sure they'll get to the problems. There's some very experienced personnel in that team, so I don't anticipate any problems for them this weekend.
That's Dominic Schwager pointing at his car, and there it is. The Lamborghini, piloted by Nicky Pastorelli from the start here. Let's take a look at this allinkle.com Lamborghini Murcielago. It's a fantastic looking car. Boy, has it got some horsepower under the bonnet.
Yeah, it's 600 horsepower, 660 newton meters of torque. But the Lamborghinis have been complaining that it's not that quick in a straight line lately. Mark Bassart and Thomas Jaeger are their drivers. Interestingly, wakeboarding and cinema for Mark's son as their hobbies.
Not at the same time.
No, really?
Might get quite wet. Nicky Pastorelli and Dominic Schwager in the second of the allinkle.com racing cars. Biking and music. Dominic Schwager, and Pastorelli likes his bikes as well.
Yes, biking and music you can do at the same time, I think.
But not biking and swimming. That's two parts of the triathlon. Packed grandstands right in front of our commentary box here on what is a nice warm day. 3 minutes to go until the start of the race, and you can see the grid there. The Maserati and the Aston at the front. This is the Madcrock Racing Corvette. Xavier Masson will kick off this one from row 3, with Mike Heseman jumping from the Phoenix Corvette into the Madcrock team for this particular weekend after that fire at Silverstone.
Yeah, the Corvette, as we saw, was very quick in a straight line, but was not perhaps carrying so much speed as the Ford GT through the corners. So it's going to be very crucial they get off the line quickly. The Ford GT obviously in 6th position, so we have got 6 different makes. As we look at Andre Bertolini here, we have got 6 different makes in the first 6 positions, so very competitive this weekend.
What's been interesting to me though is Andre Bertolini just staring ahead of him at the moment, that the Corvettes have dominated the GT3 racing this weekend. A double win for the Graf Racing team, and we had a top 3 of Corvettes yesterday morning, but transfer that over to GT1, it's been a much wider spread, as you say. 6 makes in the top 6, including of course this Ford GT, Romain Grosjean, who had a thrilling finish behind that Corvette, didn't he, in yesterday's race. Just couldn't quite muscle his way past at the end. But off the line, Grosjean might just fancy his chances to nick ahead.
Yeah, I don't think he's got the power, though, compared to the cars around him. But, you know, I really do hope he gets in front of them. As you look at the second Maserati, who's down in 7th position, Enrique Benodi, ex-Formula 1 driver. But I really do hope that Ford GT gets in front of some of the other cars, because he was stunning pace in warm-up today. And I'd really like to see what sort of fight he can bring to the guys right at the front.
Benodi's teammate Miguel Ramos started on the front row yesterday's race, and he was the car that got swallowed up by the various competitors. And that's the hope as we look at Freddie Makovic in the Aston Martin Hexus here. That's the hope for the rest of the field, that the Maserati can be caught when the lights go green, because if that Maserati gets out in front on the first lap, they're going to find it very difficult to close the Italian car down.
Exactly. I mean, you know, the Maserati is just such a well-balanced car, and, you know, with such long corners on the circuit, they're mostly medium speed. But let's take a look through the grid, mate.
Yeah, Bertolini and Enger on the front row. Then Crum and Pastorelli, Nissan and Lamborghini on row 2. Masson and Grosjean kicking things off for Corvette and for Ford GT on the 3rd row. Row 4, Maserati and Aston Martin, Benoldi and Makovic. Then we go to row 5, another Aston Martin and Maserati combination. Row 6 sees the Nissan of Carl Wendlinger and Stefan Mucker in the Aston Martin. Then Lamborghini and Maserati as we head down now to row 7, row 8, Ford GT with Baz Linders, very good in the wet but not so much the dry, and the Nissan as well. Another Ford GT on the next row behind Stefan Rossina down there as well. The back end of the grid, Mika Salo, former Formula 1 driver of course, and then the all-female duo Frey and Alleman, and as I mentioned the Nissan Sumo powered car as the cars now get off the grid right at the back. Expect to see this car accelerating away now, charging through the field. It's in a false position, that Sumo powered GT.
Yeah, that Sumo powered car at the very back is carrying 40 kilograms of ballast because it did win the race, the last race week in Silverstone. But it is very quick and it should be able to get into the top 10 if it has a good first few laps.
We're riding on board in the other Nissan as well, Michael Crum and Peter Dumbreck from the second row. 5.4 kilometers long, this circuit, very undulating circuit, 21 degrees, highest temperature we've had all weekend long, 34 degrees track temperature. Warming up the tyres shouldn't be a problem today.
Yeah, and especially come to the play of the Maserati. The Maserati is very kind on its tyres, and one of its slight bugbears is that it doesn't get its tyres up to temperature quick enough, but in this heat it should be perfect for it. And if it does get to the front, as we were talking about earlier, it has such a good balance, it's such a well-sorted car that it will be very difficult to beat, you know, because the balance through these long corners means that it's very, very quick around this track.
Where can you overtake on this track? I mentioned it's very undulating, medium speed corners, nothing really slow where you have to slam on the brakes, so where is the chance?
Well, you've got to kind of set them up to try and defend into one of the corners. You can get them to try and defend into these couple of corners here, 5, 6, 7. You can try and take a stab under the brakes into turn 8, also under the brakes turn 10, up the other part of the circuit towards the slow chicane, turn 11 is also possible, and of course into turn 1, but you really need a good exit out of the last corner if you're going to do it into turn 1.
So tense moments in the garages, the cars out on the track, and all the team can do now is wait for the start as we ride on board in car number 33, the Triple H team Hager Sports Maserati. Alexander Margaritis will start that, his partner, former World Touring Car racer Alfred Hager, just weaving away. Up the straight they come, working the tyres, all except the Maserati, as you mentioned, a little kinder on his tyres. Enrique Benaldi now just gets the wiggle on.
Yeah. We'll watch Darren Turner here. He will be taking over from Thomas Enger at the pit stops. He looks very calm and relaxed, but he is a bit tense actually. Now I just contradict myself, because he knows it's all about the start. If the Aston can get the Maserati at the start, I think he has the pace to keep the Maserati behind him.
Yeah, he put Thomas Enger in with a great shout of getting up to second place yesterday, Darren Turner. Brilliant opening stint, and now he's got to bring the car home and hope that Thomas Enger can put him in a position to get onto the top of the podium, which of course they did at Silverstone in the last championship race, but then the stewards found something wrong with the plank underneath the car, and that result got taken away from them. Hence the Nissan ended up as winners. And now Enger and Turner going for their first official win of the season, or the win that counts. Right, the safety car going through the final chicane now, all in formation. That safety car will peel away into the pits right at the last moment as we just look these last moments on board in that Sumo Power Nissan. The Maserati on the left-hand side of the screen, now on the near ground is the Aston Martin. The lights red above the cars. It's a championship race at Brno, and the lights go green and away we go. And that Maserati off to a flying start. The Nissan already under pressure from the Aston Martin, but the Nissan ahead now. The Aston Martin is just dropping back, and that's an awful start there from Thomas Enger. He's going backwards quicker than he's going forwards at the moment, and the Ford GT well ahead of him as they go through turn 1. What happened to that Aston Martin? The Nissan can't catch the Maserati. The second of the Maseratis is pressurising the Corvette as they now go into turn 3. Maserati from Nissan, and then comes Lamborghini, and what a great start from the number 2 Maserati, Enrique Benaldi, off the line, absolutely flying up into 4th place.
Yeah, what a terrible start from the Aston Martin of Thomas Enger. What was he thinking there? He's all the way back, his race is ruined. It's going to be very difficult for him to get back up there. We're looking at the number 9 Aston Martin of the DBR9. He also had a good start. He's in front of the GT40 of Grosjean, and so there no other incidences on the grid so far.
No, but you just wonder what happened to that Aston Martin and why it was going back, and it's continuing to go back as well. Look, just coming in a shot there, as we can see the Ford GT, Romain Grosjean on board, ahead of car number 34, Matteo Bobbi in that Maserati. As round the right-hander they come now, the Ford GT ahead, and a mistake from the car just in front of that Ford GT, going a little bit wide through that turn. Two Lamborghinis going almost side by side into that corner before one just pulls out a little bit, and the Ford GT hunting down the Aston Martin there up in front. The Maserati looking very cool and very composed on this opening lap and suffering no problems whatsoever as they come to complete this first lap. 2 more corners to go for the lead car. Headlights on in the bright sunshine here in Brno. It's Maserati from Nissan, then comes Lamborghini, then Maserati again, Corvette and Aston Martin, 2 of them, then the Ford GT. And what a sensational start it has been from the man on pole, Andrea Bertolini, in that Maserati. Oh, and that's off! Car number 22, Warren Hughes.
He's had an incident, looks like he's kissed the barrier. There is some damage to that left front bumper. We have not seen what's happened there. But a great start from the 2 Hexus AMR Aston Martins. They made up a lot of places on that start. They did exactly what Thomas Enger should have done, but failed to do. And Thomas Enger is all the way back down.
16th place.
Wow, that's a really bad start. I've never seen such a bad start before.
I don't think he was turning Andrea Bertolini on the line. Look, you know, you just go off and do your own thing. I'm going to go backwards, but sadly, that's the way it's worked. As Grosjean tries down the inside there with the Aston Martin ahead of him. Car number 9 of that Hexus Aston Martin, Freddie Makovicky, just defending his line a little bit. The Corvette now coming under pressure as we can ride on board with Makovicky now.
Yeah, he's got Grosjean right behind him, and Grosjean really needs to get a move on. He is being quick, and he needs to get in front of these next couple of cars so that he can try and challenge the cars further up in front.
Jonathan Hershey in the Corvette, just a little bit of breathing space there, but Romain Grosjean just getting squeezed and constricted a little bit by the Aston Martin and by the Lamborghini at the moment, hence his desperation, and he's almost just nudging up alongside through that right-hander on the car in front. But has he now got the drag? Has he got the acceleration? Doesn't look like it for me.
Well, he's close enough, but he just doesn't seem to have the acceleration, does he? He was right up the backside of the Aston Martin, but the Aston seemed to pull up down the straight, and that's something we saw with the Ford GT yesterday. Just didn't seem to have the speed in the straight line.
Now riding on board with Alexander Margaritis in 10th place at the moment, which scores you 1 championship point if he stays that way. And we cut to see the Nissan under pressure from the Lamborghini going through the second turn. Michael Crump on board the Nissan, and it's Nicky Pastorelli in that Lamborghini. Still Grosjean now trying to force his way through, and he's done it! He's managed to get past that Aston Martin, Freddie Makovicky, just caught napping a little bit, and now you can see Romain Grosjean ahead of him in that Ford GT, making a brilliant turn through the final corner. Who's that weaving all over the track as the Nissan Sumo comes out of the pits? Warren Hughes, after his spin, has been into the pits and has rejoined once again.
Great move by Grosjean, just caught him napping through that last corner. That is a place you can do it if the other guy just does not expect it, and did it perfectly. Let's see if he can pull that same move off on the Corvette, who he's closing up with quickly.
Let's just see, ahead of Romain Grosjean then, car number 11, Xavier Massan, as we watch from behind Freddie Makovicky, who we saw in the GT3 race make the odd error or two. He's not absolutely inch perfect on this circuit.
Yeah.
Oh, and off! It's the second of the Ford GTs, and I'm afraid that's Rahel Frey on a GT debut, and she's got that car beached. Back tyres were spinning round, but it wasn't going around, and she was hit from behind. And now look, car absolutely beached. We can see what happened here. The second of the young driver Aston Martin's nudging her out of the way.
Yeah, it's a 50-50 there, really. Maybe she should have just given him a bit of room. I doubt she didn't see him in the mirrors. I'm sure she would have seen him in the mirrors, and one of the safety cars going to come up for that, and should have just given a car width room at the apex, because the next corner was a right-hander, and she would have been on the inside for that one.
Stefan Mucker in the Aston Martin as the 2 Hager Sports Maseratis not side by side, wheel to wheel, one just in front of the other. Margaritis we were riding on board with behind the car number 34, Matteo Bobbi. As up the hill they go now through that final chicane.
Yeah, this car seems to have a bit of understeer. Also, the onboard shots from the Aston seem to be suffering from a lot of understeer earlier on. And the safety car is deployed. I think that was a smart move.
Yeah, not surprised at all there. We saw in one of the earlier races, it took a while to the tractor down at turn 1 to get the cars out of the gravel. I think it was down at turn 3 where Rahel Frey had her coming together. And still there, still in the car, still waiting to get pulled away. And you can see the car absolutely beached and going absolutely nowhere before Farmer Giles and his tractor can get down there.
Yeah. Hopefully they will allow her to continue, because, and hopefully she can continue, because any mileage these two can get is good for them, because they just a little bit off the pace right now, and I feel that these girls need to just do a bit more laps.
Yeah, no, I think it's a valid point. They've been, 2 or 3 seconds off the pace throughout the weekend. Rahel in her GT debut, while Natasha Gashnang continues her rehabilitation, hopes to be coming back in June from that nasty accident at Abu Dhabi. But we saw right at the start Thomas Enger going from the front row all the way down to 16th place. His teammate Darren Turner might shed some light on just why.
Down, unfortunately, Thomas has gone right back to 16th place. Can you explain what's happened?
I'm not totally sure. I've heard some of the communication from Thomas, but it's something to do with the start procedure. He's obviously waiting for the lights to go out, the red lights to go out. Amber's came on as if it's an aborted start, so he didn't accelerate. It's an aborted start or something like that, and that's why he's dropped back. There's nothing wrong with the car. He was just under the impression the start had been aborted, so need to find out a little bit more from the team if they've got some more information. And now it's obviously under the safety car, so Thomas may be able to communicate the problem a little bit better without the stress of being in the race. But yeah, something strange happened at the start with the procedure, and it's caught Thomas out.
Thank you.
Darren Turner there with slight explanation. And maybe we'll see in a few moments' time, maybe we'll see now actually the start itself. There's the red lights, and look, the cars are already past the lights and they're still showing red. Now, from the other side, we did see a bit of green.
Yeah, we did definitely saw them go green from the other side, but from that side you could see them flashing like perhaps it was an aborted start. I wish we could see the shot from the front view, maybe onboard shot. As we watch here, you see the Ford GT of Grosjean got bumped out by one of the Astons, and that's why he lost a few places.
Absolutely, and this lovely move just down the inside, the Aston Martin Hexus car number 10 with Jonathan Hershey getting past that Corvette. As the discussions still carry on down at young driver Aston, that's Christopher Nygaard just getting into a bit of a debate there. Now, whilst the safety car's out, we can discuss this start, but yeah, the flashing red light, the car's already through it, and the lights overhead might indicate that the young driver team, or Darren Turner there, has a bit of a point.
Oh, if that is the case, that's really bad luck for that, not just the team, the car. They've had an appalling start to the season. They've scored no points, except the first time they scored points was yesterday. They won the race at Silverstone and got the race taken away from them for really minor infringement. So it's a tough year for them so far.
Has to be said though, Thomas Enger was the only one that was going backwards, and the only one that did seem to have a problem with those lights. The rest just seem to be racing as normal as they pass the start-finish line behind the safety car, whilst that Ford GT is extricated from the gravel. Maserati, pole sitters, Bertolini and Bartels from the Nissan that started in third place, of Michael Crum and Peter Dumbrek. Then car 38, Nicky Pastorelli and Dominic Schwager in the Lamborghini. Then Enrique Benoldi has made up places from the fourth row of the grid to now run fourth himself.
Yeah, good start by Benoldi.
Right, now here's the start. This is the angle I wanted to see, because this is what we saw in real time. You can see the Aston Martin in the foreground there, and now you'll see the lights showing red as the cars make their way down the straight. They pick up speed all the time, and they go green. They definitely go green.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. I can't think what Thomas is referring to.
And by now, of course, they get into turn 1 and the lights have gone out. But I'm glad we did see that, because as I was commentating, I mentioned the lights had gone green and certainly saw them go green. But then there is a shot we saw in between when the cars got to the first turn and they got past the start-finish line of the flashing red light as well. Safety cars coming in at the end of this lap and we can go racing again. But, you see a green light, you go for it, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, you don't take the risk. Even if you just suspect something is not quite right, but you're not sure, you go. I mean, this is motor racing. I think Thomas has just made a big mistake there.
Well, Darren Turner just trying to clear up the confusion, and we thank him for that, but he's got one heck of a job by the time he gets in the car. If Enger can get it anywhere up to near, there's Darren there, 10th place or so, then Darren will say, yeah, well done for trying to make the best of a bad job, and points all the way down to 10th place, so they'll still be hopeful that they can score something. As it is, Maserati winners yesterday with Bertolini and Bartels out in front once again, and just looking to survive this restart without any problems whatsoever, because the Nissan should be there on their tail.
Yeah, I mean, Krum has got to be all over the back with that Maserati come the restart, because he knows this is the only chance he's going to get to overtake that Maserati. He's got to try and use that superior torque, so he really needs to get really close to the Maserati as he comes through the last couple of corners.
We shall see exactly what happens in just a few moments' time. There is the Nissan, Michael Krum, talking to Nigel Stepney down at Nissan this morning, and he was saying how well he thought that his drivers were doing. What a great driver pairing it was, Michael Krum and Peter Dunbreck, also Jamie Campbell-Walter and Warren Hughes. You know, huge amount of experience behind the wheel down at that Nissan team. But if it's experience you're really looking for, Bertolini and Bartels, 3 times GT champions, of course, in that Maserati. Well, they're the boys that you're all going to have to catch as the field now bunch up.
Get closer. He's not close enough. And Bertolini's just grabbed him, got him nicely, and he's off.
Not even close, is it? And it seems to me Michael Krum just fighting that Nissan a little bit. Now, Enrique Bernoldi has got a really good start behind that Lamborghini, and I wonder if he can pull out now and challenge into the first corner. He can't, but Grosjean behind in that 4GT, behind car number 10, that Mad Crop Corvette of Jonathan Hershey. Grosjean was pushing him all the way around as well, and he fancied his chances, couldn't quite make it stick. So the Nissan getting detached from that Maserati already, as we come right on board with Frederick Makovicky. Oh, and locking up and brakes there going into turn 3.
Yeah, he's just trying to defend from the Aston Martin. Brakes obviously a little bit cold, tyres a little bit cold, catching 1 or 2 of the cars out. Very important, they've got a good 10 minutes to go on these set of tyres. It's very important that you don't flat spot these tyres, because it's quite easy to do, and once they're flat spotted, it can be very difficult to drive. Huge vibration sets in, and you have to go slower.
Big vibrations are not of the good variety, as on board we ride with Alexander Margaritas down in 10th place, and you can see how hard he's having to work at the steering wheel through the stadium complex.
Yeah, he's following his teammate there in 9th position.
This is the 4GT and the Nissan, the 4GT of car number 40, Baz Liners, eventually muscling his way past Carl Wendlinger. Took him a couple of goes and a few of, what do you call them, Alex? Love taps?
Just love taps. And set up the Lamborghini behind him, try and take another look at the Nissan, but no, not quite. Nissan is defense into turn 10, and 37 Lamborghini have to wait for another time.
Yeah, Mark Bass saying your time might just come, but Baz Liners, cracking move there from the Belgian driver, just barging his way through. Taps of the love variety to get past that Sumo Nissan of the Swiss racing team Nissan of Carl Wendlinger. Meanwhile, out in front, our race leader Andrea Bertolini in the Vodafone Racing Team Maserati has a 9/10 of a second advantage over Michael Krum. Nicky Pastorelli, well, it's actually 1.6 seconds as they now cross the start-finish line. Nicky Pastorelli, 2.3 seconds down in 3rd place. Another 2.9 seconds back to car number 2, running in 4th place, Enrique Bernoldi. And who's that just trying to get in the action? One of the Swiss racing teams. Is that Wendlinger trying to retake a place?
And that's number 8, Stefan Muckert, going through on, I think that's Mika Salo in the Mad Croc Racing Corvette.
Seiji sorry, he was trying to get up into 13th place there as we head on board, and you can see just how this track undulates a little bit as they reach a plateau. Mika Salo in the Mad Croc Corvette, we ride on board with him down in 18th place at the moment. The car ahead of him is Frank Cacelli in the Reiter Engineering Lamborghini Murcielago. Now we can see the track just dropping down. Beautiful Sunday afternoon here in Brno. Not that the drivers have much time to admire the view.
Yeah, it's just you can see the torque of that car just coming out the corner, how the notes doesn't just seem to rise, doesn't scream like a high horsepower car. But the Aston seems to be very quick on the straight as well, but plenty of power there compared to the Corvette.
Fair to say that that Corvette sounds like a Mad Croc itself, to be honest, but a relaxed Mad Croc. Now,
it's interesting that you know what a Mad Croc sounds like.
I don't get too close, I have to say. Now, we have an incident to bring you news of, because car number 1, our race leader, Andrea Bertolini, has got a stop-and-go penalty for the steward saying a violation of speed at the start. Was he going too fast before the start? Safety car had peeled off, and we noticed the Nissan getting very detached, didn't we, going through that final chicane as this Maserati got himself away.
Yeah, I'm a bit perplexed by that, because normally in a rolling start, if someone goes too early, they send them around for another lap. But maybe there must be a rule now that says if you jump the start, if you go too quick and before the green lights turn green, that you will come in and serve a penalty.
And that is going to cost that Maserati dear, because at the moment he's only 1.6 seconds clear out in front. And by the time he comes in and serves that stop-and-go penalty, the way the field are all bunched up at the moment, only the second lap after the safety car, well, he's going to drop way, way down the field, if not right to the back of it completely.
Yeah, this track is just too tight and too difficult to overtake. You know, these sort of mistakes cost you the race. You know, Thomas Enger, he's trying to fight back here, and he's now up to 15th position. But really, I think the most they can hope for is minor points, maybe 8th, 9th, or 10th. But disaster for the Maseratis, because if he has to come in for that stop-goal penalty, I can bet you anything the team are protesting that at the moment. If he has to come in for that stop-goal penalty, that's going to put him right to the back, and I think that's going to ruin any chances they have of scoring points today.
Seggiara is the man that's holding up Thomas Enger at the moment, and you can see the Swiss racing team Nissan just coming through the foreground there. Now, the two Hager Sport cars through our shot, the Maserati MC12, Alexander Margaritis and Matteo Bobbi. There's the Aston Martin of Freddie Makovic, and at the moment, Makovic running in 8th place. About 0.4 of a second ahead of the car behind, and under pressure, Makovic behind him from, well, not this man, that's car number 33, who's running in 10th place, but Matteo Bobbi, who's running in 9th place. Oh, look at that, they touch! Makovic and Bobbi, as Bobbi trying to dive down the inside, and they touch again. 2 banks, 3 banks, make it 4, and eventually Makovic does fend off the Maserati, whose teammate thinks to himself, I'm not staying here any longer. Alfred Hager, away he goes, and off into the distance.
Yeah, that was a bit harsh. I mean, you could see that the GT gave the Aston Martin a bit of a tap going through the left-hander as the leader comes in for the stop and go, and off he goes. The GT gave the Aston Martin a bit of a tap, and then it was a kind of a tit-for-tat move, because through the right-hander, the Aston Martin just drove into the side of the Ford GT and put him way out wide.
Michael Crum takes over the lead, though. Tit-for-tat it was, but to be fair, the man who started it came off worse, and he dropped about 3 places further back. Yes, he was trying to make the move, but maybe that move wasn't on that occasion, albeit a bit of banging. You don't mind seeing it from time to time as Seggiari just squeezes Thomas Enger a little bit going through turn 3. Cracking battle this, and Enger using all of his experience on this his home track to get past the Japanese driver. Still he can't do it.
He can try into turn 5. Oh, we just lost the shot, but well, yeah, it's difficult. It's so difficult to overtake you. That Aston Martin is so much quicker than that Nissan. I proved it yesterday. I'm sure if he can get past, he'll just streak away from him.
Alexander Margaritis in 9th place, we just saw. There's the Ford GT, Roman Grosjean going through our shot at the moment, and Grosjean in 5th place, but desperately trying to get past the Jonathan Hershey Aston Martin in front of him. We saw this yesterday, but it was the Corvette in front of the Ford GT, and he just couldn't quite squeeze his way past. He's already beaten the Corvette today, or beating him so far, but he's being held up by the Aston Martin. Grosjean, though, really impressing me. He's absolutely giving it everything as we ride back on board with Alexander Margaritis. And for a while, Margaritis fancied his chances. He still might try and get through at the chicane. No, the Aston just squeezes him out.
Yeah, Margaritis just braked just that fraction too late.
And Baz Linders has got past him as well.
Yeah, just that fraction too late. He had him. It's the correct move to do, but it's literally a foot too late. As finally, the same move as before.
Oh, and he's off. He's off.
That's the Maserati 33. He was defending from his teammate, and they're
and there's 2 of them down there as well, Margaritis and Baz Linders, and Baz Linders absolutely furious here and saying, you idiots, you tried to do me at the chicane, on the second chicane you're taking me out of the race. What is wrong with you today? Yeah, or something to that effect.
Yeah, Baz Linders was through. He was through, and then he just, you know, the Maserati got panicked. He was losing his positions. He was trying to take the Aston, and he just got too greedy. And I think he just made a mistake. As another Lamborghini goes off, it's all happening right now.
And it is the Lamborghini of Franchicelli off into the gravel, but he's managed to keep it going through that first turn. But there's a huge amount of debris that'll be now pouring onto the track, all the stones coming off. Grosjean up into 4th place, by the way, amidst all the carnage. We should just confirm that Romain Grosjean did get past the Aston Martin, and now he moves himself up into 4th place. Nearly 2 seconds, though, behind the car number 2, the Enrique Benoldi Maserati, that's running in 3rd place.
Yeah, it's great action. This is all what GT racing is about. As the Maserati has a look at the Swiss racing car there of...
So Matteo Bobby and Carl Wendlinger out on the track at the moment, and I just wonder if Matteo Bobby can be a bit more refined, a little bit more gentlemanly-like as he tries to make his way through the field, as opposed to his teammate who just barged anyone out the way that he could find.
Yeah, Maserati had the quicker car, and he just made a mistake. He had the Aston going into this corner here, this turn 11. He just braked too late. He didn't have to brake that late. He just needed to make sure he was a bit more than alongside.
I think we've got a safety car coming out as well. Sorry, Alex, just to interrupt you. Yes, we have. And this is because the Linders car and the Margaritas car still stranded in the gravel on that final turn. So second safety car of the race comes out.
Wow, that means we're going to have some pit stops pretty soon as well, because in 2.5 minutes pit stops will happen. So if that safety car stays out for more than 1 lap, we're going to see the entire field come in for a pit stop. And there's going to be carnage in that pit lane, I am sure.
Hey, pressure on the crews as well.
Yeah. I wonder if, I hope the crews have 2 sets of crews to change tyres, because they only have 1 set of crew for each car. I mean, for 2 cars. It's going to be carnage in there, and there's you know, it's not a. Luckily, it's a big wide.
Let's just see a replay now of exactly what happened with Margaritas going into that. Linders cut across him.
Yeah, but Margaritas was coming from too far back. He's on the dirty side. I think that was too adventurous. I think he should have just, you know, when you make the mistake, you know, sometimes you need to cool the head. Just go, all right, I made the mistake. Let's calm down, and not try and recover it 1 corner later.
Can you speak Belgian frustration? I think we can understand exactly what was being said there. Now, who else went on? This is the Lamborghini I think we're going to see appearing through the dust cloud. Yes, it is. Replay of Franchicelli.
Yeah, I think he just spun off by himself in the Blancpain car.
Now, 6 men standing around looking at a Ford GT. Does one of them want to attach a tow rope and get rid of it and get racing again? What do you think? Go on, boys.
Probably wondering what's under the hood. Can we look under the hood?
Let me get the camera out in a minute and taking photos. Just get rid of the car, for heaven's sake. The stewards, by the way, going to look at that incident between Margaritas and Baz Linus. Not Linus, I should say. Not the bit where they had that little verbal exchange, but the exchange on rubber on the track. The safety car still out. And what?
Okay, they can pit under safety car, so the pit lane will open in 50 seconds, and it makes no sense for anyone to stay out because they'll be compromised when it does go green again. So every car on this field should be coming in for a pit stop very soon. As we look at this, he had the inside here, but you know, he's coming from far back, not too far back really, but it's on the dirty side of the track. He's in the blind side because he's not right next to Bas Linders in the Ford GT. He's actually way over to the left, so you can't possibly expect Bas Linders to see him that far away.
He had a ragged 2 laps, didn't he? And maybe it was just 1 corner too many at the end of that ragged 2 laps, but he was scrapping away and losing out time after time after time.
This could play really well into the young driver Aston Martin team. We know how good they are at pit stops, and basically with everyone pitting together as we watch Bas Linders walk back, this gives an opportunity for the fastest pit crews to make up a lot of positions now. So because they all come in together, if the Astons can have a perfect pit stop like they normally do, you could see Thomas Eng and Darren Turner leapfrog up the order.
Well, at the moment, Thomas Enger is up into 10th place. He's made his way up into 10th place with all the carnage that was going on with Linders and with Margaritas heading out. He's gaining track position. So the pit window is now open. Let's go to
That's an
Baz.
unfortunate early finish for you.
Well, yeah, if there's a bunch of idiots on the track who drive like crazy madmen, this is not racing. I mean, Eduardo Freitas, the race director, warned everybody. The first two races was too much damage, and now you got these idiots in the Maseratis. They just push everybody aside, and they do or die. It's incredible.
Baz Leiner's not a happy man. And look at this, pretty much the entire field now heading into the pits. And I think amongst them, Thomas Enger, and certainly our race leader amongst them as well. And this, yeah, our race leader, car number 23, that's Sumo Nissan, Michael Crum, will hand over to Peter Dumbreck. Now, 2 mechanics can change the tyres. Only 2 mechanics can change the tyres. All 4 tyres have to be changed. And, of course, the drivers swap over as well. And there you see Peter Dumbreck getting in, Michael Crum helping Peter Dumbreck with his seatbelts. Now, a really speedy pit stop will gain you an awful lot of time and track position here. As down at Maserati, they got 2 cars in at the same time. And the number 2 gets out first, but he was ahead on the track. Enrico Benoldi handing over to Miguel Ramos. And, oh, what's that? Bit of a problem down at Sumo Power with our race leader being pushed back before he can get out again. The Ford GT looks to me like Thomas Much has got out first to take the lead here. And is that Darren Turner taking second place from 10th to 2nd in the pit stop? That's absolutely incredible.
Yeah, Maserati shot themselves in the foot there. They had both cars there and there was a traffic jam and it affected both their pit stops. Both Maseratis dropped back and one of the Sumo cars also has lost a bit of time there as well.
Now, Nissan seem to have a huge problem down there with their pit stop, and yes, there are cars out on the track that technically are leading this race, but they've got to come in for their pit stop. The guys that have now changed their tyres, changed their drivers behind the safety car, they are effectively the guys racing on the lead lap here as Baz Leiner's, and I think he's going to be sulking and shouting and stroppy for the rest of the day here. Does he have a point?
No,
it's not the Mad Croc, isn't it?
Yeah, that's not Baz. That's not Baz Leiner's. That's Masson. Obviously, had a bad stop. You know, it's easy to confuse them because they both don't have any hair. But they obviously had a bad stop. You see, lots of disgruntled crews there, and that's what happens when you have such a busy pit lane. You know, cars get in the way and they lose a lot of time. So these cars you see right behind the safety car, these 1, 2, 3, 5 cars just behind the safety car have not stopped, but they will have to stop eventually. But the car in 6th place, the other GT Ford, the Ford GT, which is Thomas Much and
Romain
Grosjean, are in the lead effectively because these 5 cars all have to pit.
Safety car will be coming in at the end of this lap. So we get racing again, and for the Ford GT team, for Thomas Much and Romain Grosjean, could we now be seeing them on their way to another victory here, and one that didn't look like they were running in 4th place, weren't they, before the pit stops. But at Nissan they had a huge problem, and it's we saw the car being pushed back before he could get out again. The pit lane was so crowded, by the time it stopped another car had kind of blocked their way.
Yeah, it's a difficult situation, but you can't afford not to pit. And now we see the other 4 cars pitting. One of the Nissans is staying out.
Sergiara is going to stay out, the Swiss racing team, from Thomas Much, and then Darren Turner. Behind him comes Peter Dumbreck. So that's that battle there, 3rd, 4th and 5th. But here, the Aston Martin on the inside of the Lamborghini, and the Aston just squeezing round. Absolutely superb move there by Clivio Piccioni.
Yeah, great move there, and he's through. Interestingly now, let's see if Thomas Much has got the pace, because this weekend he has struggled to put the lap times as his younger teammate Romain Grosjean. So we know Darren Turner and the Aston Martin's quick. We know that Sumo Nissan in Peter Dumbreck's hands is also quick. So can they perhaps overtake that Ford GT for the win?
Car number 10, Clivio Piccioni, currently running in 6th place. As we ride on board through the stadium sector, there's the Phoenix Corvette trying to get past the Sumo Power Nissan, which is just squeezing round on the inside of car number 11 at the moment. And yeah, the Mad Croc Corvette just going backwards a touch there, but this is a battle way down the field. Warren Hughes had handed over to Jamie Campbell-Walter, 19th place. Sumo Nissan at the moment.
Yeah, it's strange to see that the number 11 Corvette struggling. It's in Mike Hazelman's hands, and he should be up to speed pretty quickly.
Now, this was our one-time race leader, I think. Yeah, the man who started on pole was Andrea Bertolini, now handed over to Michael Bartels, and back racing in 14th place because they had the stop-go penalty. Coming up to the back of the Lamborghini now, and trying to make his way past, but he's going to take a little while to do that.
That Ford's opened up a small bit of a gap between himself and the Aston Martin. It's going to be interesting to see how that battle shapes up. Further down the field, see number 2 car of the Maserati try and have a look at the Lamborghini down the start finish straight.
Now Miguel Ramos in that number 2 Maserati at the moment as we watch the young driver Aston of is that Darren Turner back there, or is that yeah, it is Darren Turner being pressurised by the car 23, the Sumo Power GT Nissan of Peter Dumbrek. 2 British drivers going for it, hammer and tongs here in Brno with 28.5 minutes to go this championship race, and so much drama and incident so far. You wouldn't want to predict anything from here.
Yeah, and it's great news for the Ford GT team because they are second in the championship on 31 points, and if they can hold off this position and win this race, they're going to be way in the lead by quite a far bit. 25
points to the winning driver, 18 for second, 15 for third. These are the standings at the moment. Nissan lead Ford, lead Aston Martin, Seggiara, who has yet to pit, Thomas Much in second place and effectively our race leader at the moment. Then Dumbrek, Piccioni and Schwager, and then we go down to 7th, 8th and 9th, Ramos, Makovecki and Longin, and then 10th, 11th and 12th, Lamborghini, Maserati and Nissan, Dennis, Bartels and Moser, and then 3 Corvettes all in a line as we ride on board. Just very briefly in the third, effectively third place Nissan of Peter Dumbrek. Meanwhile, trying to make his way through the field, Miguel Ramos in car number 2, racing in 7th place. But I repeat, Seggiara has got to come in that Swiss Racing Nissan, so he will drop down the field once he does, and he won't be leading unless they have the most speedy pit stop of all time.
Yeah, that Lamborghini at the moment is looking a little bit vulnerable. Their car number 38 with Nicky Pastorala, Dominic Schwager in the car is just looking a bit vulnerable at the moment, and I think Ramos in the Maserati is going to make a move on him soon.
Let's just see as we pick up the Maserati now, the number 2 Maserati that started on the front row of the grid in yesterday's qualifying race, and then just had a few problems, couldn't repeat the feats of its teammate that went on to take the race. Back there is the teammate, there is yesterday's race winner going through, and then a great battle here, Lamborghini from Nissan from Corvette, and it's Jamie Campbell-Walter, champion in 2000 GT Racing, that's behind the wheel. As Seggiara finally comes in for his pit stop and hands over the Japanese driver to Max Nielsen. Back out on track once again.
Yeah, it's so unfortunate. If you don't pit during the safety car period, you're really, the race is over because it's such a long pit stop for these GT cars. Only 2 mechanics allowed to change all 4 tyres, which does slow down the proceedings quite a bit. This Aston is still struggling with quite a bit of understeer.
Jamie Campbell-Walter, meanwhile, making his way past the Nissan of Henri Moser, making his way up now into, I think, 18th place he's riding on. So right at the back of the field, but that's where they started, sadly, after that brake failure right at the end of yesterday's qualifying race.
It's such a shame that Warren had that off in the first few laps, because with all the safety car periods they've had, they could have had a chance of leapfrog back into the top 10. But as it is, they're down in 18th position, and it's going to be very tough for them to get to the points now.
Riding on board with Henri Moser for just a brief moment, and then look at the way this Nissan is just cruising its way round and right up to the back of the Corvette as they come out of the right-hander, turn 10. They call it Schwantz after the motorbike rider Kevin Schwantz, who was the first to fall there a few years ago at the newly renovated and resurfaced Brno circuit. Great for the bikes, but the cars enjoy it here as well too. You can ride as much curve as you want here because it's pretty flat curves, all set up for the bikes, and see how much curve car number 3 Henri Moser takes through this chicane.
And the car number 1, yesterday's winner, has just set a really quick lap of 57.4, and he's up to 8th position, so into the points now. It's Michael Bartels, and he's putting a lot of pressure on the number 9 Aston Martin.
Blistering pace being set, but out in front still Thomas Much leads from Darren Turner in the Aston Martin. So 4 GT from Aston Martin. The gap is 0.4 of a second while we concentrate on this battle for 11th and for 12th, Moser and Henrici. And round and through on the inside, there goes Jamie Campbell-Walter, getting past Jan Dennis in the Lamborghini, picking the right moments and moving up another place.
Listen to that Nissan. I just love the sound of that V8. It's got so much torque. This car's low compression, just a lot of torque. It's just like it's an American engine, as I understand it, from the Nissan camp, which makes it sound just like the other American brands, the Corvette and the Ford GT. Big growly engines they have.
Whoa, and just hanging on to that Nissan, Henri Moser there, and he's going to try and do the Lamborghini on the inside. They touch, there's contact there, and a bit of banging still as the Lamborghini takes the inside line. And look at that Corvette, just picking up the scraps like a hungry vulture, waiting for the battle to finish out, and then just popping himself up.
Yeah, that's what racing's all about, you know. That's why it's so difficult to be in the middle of a sandwich, because you're trying to attack someone, and he was quicker than the Lambo, made a good move, but the Lambo defended nice and fairly, which allowed the Corvette to attack, and now that Nissan's back at the back of this sandwich.
Yep, and the Sumo Power Nissan, I just wondered why it was stuck in that battle. It's a lap down. I think it's unlapped itself from this battle for 13th and 12th place. 11th, 12th and 13th place, and now it can try and hunt down a few others, but in a very false position. It came into the pits, did it very early on after a bit of a troublesome opening couple of laps. Let's just take a replay of this contact down at the very, very tight, right at the bottom of the hill, turn 9.
Yeah, he tried to dive down the inside, but the Lamborghini was smart, gave him a bit of space, and was on the inside for the next corner, and the Corvette just followed him through.
Half a second, the gap out in front, but Thomas Much will know Darren Turner's there, and Darren Turner will certainly know that Peter Dumbreck is there, because Dumbreck almost forced his way through on the inside.
Yeah, now the Aston Martin's the meat in this sandwich, so he's in a difficult position. He's trying to attack that Ford GT. Ford GT's come back to him, and the Aston Martin's definitely quicker. But we have a very fast Nissan right behind him, and Peter Dumbreck is perfectly poised to try and take advantage of any mistake the front two cars might make.
Clio Piccioni and the other Aston Martin, the Hexus Aston Martin, running in 4th place, and then down in 5th at the moment, Dominic Schwager in the Lamborghini Murcielago.
And interestingly enough, the number 1 car, the Maserati, has got past the Aston Martin and is now up to 7th position.
I just wonder if Michael Bartels could force his way up a little bit further with 21 3/4 minutes remaining. The two Maseratis running together, but you'd fancy your chances that Bartels and Bertolini, you know, the golden boys, shall we say, of Maserati, and champions on 3 years in GT racing, might just be able to get past their teammates. And at the moment, car number 2 being driven by Miguel Ramos.
Yeah. He actually got a bit too close to the Ford GT now, so have to drop back a little bit. Michael Bartels looking very racy there as he's behind his teammate. I was going to try and make a move on him, and at the same time his teammate trying to make a move on the Lamborghini right in front of him.
Really aggressive into that final turn, and down the main straight, Maserati turn their heads to the right, and they might just see, yes they can, the number 1 car just trying to attack, but Bartels couldn't quite squeeze enough in front of the number 2 Miguel Ramos to force his way past through that 180 degree. You've got to go on the inside there unless you've got a huge difference in speed. We have seen a couple of cars move around the outside, but you wouldn't normally want to go round that way, and he was just half a car length too shy to force his way into that first turn.
Especially against your teammate, because you don't want to be taking out your teammate.
No, that wouldn't make for a nice bus trip home, would it, or a bus trip to the airport. He's going to try now, maybe down into turn 5, pulls out to the right hand side, but yeah, you really do not move past anyone into turn 5. We've not seen that all weekend long. 20 minutes to go on the clock, 0.6 of a second between our race leaders, but this the battle between the two Maseratis at the moment. Now, let's just ride on board with Jan Danis here, the Slovakian driver, and you can see the Corvette sneaking through on the inside. Very sneaky.
Yeah, just kind of let him through. I'm surprised he didn't defend a bit stronger there. Yeah, a bit surprised. It's almost like he let him through.
Yeah, Mark Henrici taking advantage of the gentleman's excuse me through the chicane.
Meanwhile, Michael Bartels is still looking down the inside of his teammate. And it's looking very quick. If you can just clear these two cars, and we've seen all weekend how quick that Maserati is. I'm sure he'll be setting fastest laps of the races if he can get past these two cars.
Thing is, though, and I should point this out as well, it might not do him too much good because he is a lap down the number one Maserati, because of course he had that stop-go penalty, didn't he? And it's just taken me a lap to realise that myself.
No, I don't think so. I think something's wrong with the timing screens, because he's not lost a lap. We've been watching him, and he had a stop-and-go penalty, and now the timing screens hopefully will fix themselves. No, they still haven't, but
has he got past anyway? Let's just have a look going into this first corner. No, he hasn't. Miguel Ramos just stays ahead on the track. So it was the pit stops that did for car number one. We saw the two Maseratis coming in at the same time, and we think that that car number one that started on pole position here is a lap down. It's all just a little bit confusing.
Yeah, I got some doubt on that. The time screens is saying that Michael Bartels is down one lap in 70th position, but I can't see how that could have happened. He served a stop and go, dropped him down to about 3/4 of the way of the pack down. He did not stop again after that, and he just did a pit stop, and I can't see where he's lost that lap.
Well, we'll carry on regardless. Either way, lap down or on the same lap, he's giving it absolutely everything at the moment, Michael Bartels, to try and get past. They might be teammates, this. And you don't get any blue flag action in GT racing either.
If he is a lap down, if I was the team manager, I'd be on the radio to Michael telling him to just relax and leave his teammate alone, because his teammate's trying to get past that Lamborghini.
Meanwhile, Darren Turner doing the business for Aston Martin. Here's his teammate, Thomas Enger.
Darren's certainly taken advantage of the safety car being out earlier, but you're still not happy about the start.
Well, it's really amazing how it turns around from being P16 at the beginning of the race or after the start to being P2 now. Darren is doing a great job. I mean, we had fantastic pit stop again. We have brilliant guys to do the tire change. Unfortunately, there was some kind of misunderstanding between the race director and the people there operating the start lights. And while the race director said that the start of the race will be postponed, we will do one more lap, formation lap. I saw the board, the guy pulling the board with formation lap there. I saw a yellow light flash yellow light. At that point, I just drove underneath the light, so I could not see the green. Everybody behind me saw a green, so there was a misunderstanding between people there, and unfortunately, it cost us probably the victory. Unfortunately, if we do a mistake, we gotta drive through penalties, stop and go, fine. If they do a mistake, nothing happened. Shame.
Thank you, Thomas.
Thomas Enger, not a happy man, but it does have to be said there was a car in front of him that didn't see Amber and would have been ahead of him on the track and just kept going. Yeah, we just saw green.
Yeah, we definitely saw green at the start, so I'm not sure which orange lights he saw. But and anyway, that's old news. They lost, obviously, out big time, but thanks to the safety cars coming at the right time and some very good pit work, that Aston Martin is now back up to second place and has an excellent chance of victory if he can muscle its way past that Ford GT in first place.
Yeah, I don't think victory is out of the equation at all, because now's the time when the tyres might just start to go off a little bit as well after the opening 10 minutes or so.
The timing screens have corrected themselves again now and is showing Michael Bartels in 7th position behind his teammate.
Excellent. So they are racing for track position. It took them, what, 2 laps to sort it all out, and we can give you the clear and concise information for you. 15 and a bit minutes to go, and I wonder if he's going to squeeze his way through past on the inside. Yes, he has. Fantastic from Michael Bartels, taking him 3 or so laps, but the door was left open just a little bit too much there by the number 2 car by Miguel Ramos, and he didn't need asking twice, and now he's got ahead of him the Lamborghini, and the Lamborghini almost under threat going into turn 1.
I can't believe how much car speed that car's got. It is so quick through the corners. I mean, it was an excellent move, but that's a perfect illustration of car and driver working in perfect sync, because he's just able to carry so much speed. He's really getting the most out of those Michelin tyres, and is driving superbly.
So the Lamborghini now ahead of the Maserati, who's got the bit between his teeth, up into the points and some, into 6th place. But 6th is not enough for a man and a car that started on pole position here in Brno this afternoon and now switches to try and dive down the inside at turn 5, but no way through there. They keep having a look and no one can make that move stick.
Yeah. Now Miguel Ramos needs to be smart here. He can't afford to back off. He needs to push. He needs to be right up his teammate's butt, because when his teammate makes a move on the Lamborghini, and rest assured he will make a move on that Lamborghini, Ramos needs to be close enough so they can try and follow his teammate through.
So Dominic Schwager under pressure from the Maserati of Michael Bartels. Then Miguel Ramos in the 2nd Maserati. Just got to be, you know, think to yourself, I am the vulture, I'm the scavenger, I'm going to pick up the scraps.
Yeah, not quite close enough there. But he's just driving very well, like I said. He's, you know, sometimes, will he make a quick move down the inside? No, not quite close enough, but just showing his nose, letting Dominic Schwager know that he's there, and he's very good out this corner. He gets excellent speed up the hill, and I think he's close enough to have a look into turn 13.
As the top 3 go through, then the Aston Martin in 4th, and then this great Lamborghini Maserati battle round the outside, taking a much wider line through that left-hand turn is Michael Bartels. And I wonder if that pays off with an aggressive turn in now to the right-hander at the top of this straight. He moves out and he fancies picking off that Lamborghini. Schwager will see him in his wing mirrors, but he'll know that he's a car, maybe 2 car lengths ahead, and he can just shut the door into turn 1 and fend him off. But for how long?
Yeah, not close enough. I think his best bet is out through turns 11 and 12 up the hill. The traction of the Maserati out of that slow corner is very good, and actually Bartels takes a very wide line into turn 12, which means he can probably get on the power a bit earlier, so he's very quick out of there, and he needs to try and make a move into the next corner, which will be the penultimate corner, turn 13.
And they've got to watch, because Jan Danis has stopped in his Blancpain Lamborghini Murcielago. Was racing down the field, and his racing day is ended, but that car just stopped and stationary down by the side of turn 11. Now very close indeed between Bartels and Schwager coming out of that hairpin. Just has a little look, Bartels, but he can't get through into turn 8. Now to turn 9 though, switches round to the inside, trying to force his way through.
He's got to be careful. If he makes a mistake, Ramos will be back past him. But if Ramos is a good teammate, he won't do anything, anything crazy.
There can be no team orders in this one. It's every man, every car for itself out there on the circuit.
And don't forget that Michael Bartels is the boss of this team as well. He's not just the driver. And if I was Michael Bartels right now, I'd be thinking, maybe it's time for a couple of love taps, just to let the Lamborghini know I'm here.
Sadly for him, Jan Danis' Lamborghini is stranded right in love tap territory. 11.5 minutes to go. It's 0.4 of a second separating our top 2. Less than that in this battle for 5th and for 6th place. Schwager just ahead of Bartels. Now aggressively the Maserati turns its way into the final corner, and he's a little bit closer as he comes past our commentary box now. There is only a car length in it, and getting a great tow down the main straight as the Lamborghini goes to the left, to the right, down the inside, and almost touching, and I think they possibly did. Bartels just loses out as Schwager, to as much as he possibly can, defends his position. And this is great defensive driving, but it's lap after lap, and the mental toll will be starting to tell, I'm sure, on Dominic Schwager soon. He just wants to get rid of those Maseratis, but he can't.
Yeah, that was a good defense by Dominic Schwager. He didn't try and block the line, but he just braked a little bit later, gave the Maserati just enough room, but enough to slam the door shut in his face.
Down they come towards turn 5. And a brilliant battle we're seeing, just to keep you updated. Still the Ford GT of Thomas Murch out in front. Darren Turner now 4/10 behind in that Aston Martin, and then a gap of about 7/10 to the Nissan, and Peter Dumbreck driving the second stint for the Sumo Nissan car number 23. Then still in 4th place, pretty much on his own at the moment, is Livio Piccioni in the Aston Martin. And then we get to this battle, Schwager and Bartels and Ramos for 5th, for 6th and and for 7th. In 8th place at the moment, car number 9, the other Hexus Aston Martin, Stefan Sarazan, the Le Mans driver, making his debut for them this weekend. And in 10th place at the moment, scoring the final points of this championship race, car number 13, Mark Henrici.
There's Bertolini watching the screens apprehensively. He knows his driver's running out of time to try and take that position away from the Lamborghini. As we watch the top 3 cars going through the last corner, they're just glued to each other. But at the moment, it doesn't seem like any one of them is quicker enough to make a move.
At the moment, Thomas Much on course for a 2nd championship 25-point haul of the season. We're only in round 3, but it's looking good for Ford GT at the moment. Meanwhile, once again, Bartels wanting to have a go into turn 1. He's chosen this as the place to get past that Lamborghini, and lap after lap after lap he tries it, but he just can't force his way past.
Is he close enough now as they come down to turn 3? He's very close. Will he try a dive down the inside? He's showing his nose, but no, not quite enough. Tucks back under the boot lid of the Lamborghini as he goes through turns 3 and 4.
Did think that out in front, Darren Turner was starting to gain a bit on Thomas Much, but you know, 0.5 of a second Thomas Much made up in the previous lap, and Darren Turner just waiting his time, but time running out at the front, time running out all around the track here as the flames once again kick out of the back of that Lamborghini. And now Bartels tries to make his move. Was he thinking about going around the outside of the left-hander there? Surely not.
No, it's not possible through there.
Just breaking a touch later, I think.
I wonder if Bartels might need to think about just backing off.
He's making his move now, though. Down through on the inside. He under braking, just left it a little bit later, and shoves the Lamborghini out onto the AstroTurf. And now Miguel Ramos might fancy his chance of making up a place as well. So not only has Michael Bartels done it for himself, he's done it for his teammate, and that is a fantastic piece of Maserati duo. Tag team, they call it.
Perfect opportunistic driving, because he didn't just make the move, but he shoved the Lamborghini out wide, as he's entitled to do, right onto the curb and onto the AstroTurf, so that his teammate could follow him through.
That is proper tag team GT racing there from the Maseratis, and what a battle this has been over the last few laps. But we'd already seen Michael Bartels move himself up into 5th place, and he just did enough to give his teammate a glimmer of hope as well. And they're squeezing round on the inside goes Miguel Ramos, and the two Maseratis now pulling away. But is a bit of damage? Has Michael Bartels done some damage to his Maserati? A lot of smoke coming from the right-hand side, round by the tyres.
Yeah, something's rubbing on the tyre. Hopefully it's nothing too serious. That's a lot of smoke, though. It looks like he's...
I just wonder if he's damaged just a little bit of bodywork there, and it's rubbing on the rubber. And that looks pretty serious to me. A huge amount of smoke coming up. That's just going to be wearing away at the rubber on those tyres.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how he got that, because he went down the inside around the right hand of the Lamborghini, and that smoke's coming from the right hand side of the car, unless he might have had contact with the Lamborghini at his further stage to just knock it.
Yeah, just seeing the smoke from the start of the main straight there, as into turn 1 he goes. And still, further on the lap, still seeing that smoke coming out from that right front tyre.
Well, he's only got 6 minutes to go, so let's hope the team should be on the radio right now telling him, okay, take it easy. He's got some bodywork rubbing on that front tyre. You've got 6 minutes to go, and try and nurse the tyre so we can finish the race.
Saying take it easy, he's still accelerating away from his teammate.
I don't think it's too bad. It's not like it's getting worse. So if it is just rubbing slightly on the tyre, eventually a groove will wear on the tyre, and it should stop rubbing eventually. We just hope it's not too badly rubbing that eventually it goes through the carcass of the tyre and we end up having a puncture.
Yeah, just under braking there, when you're putting the loads into the tyres, going through that left-right hand chicane, you just saw more smoke coming out, but you're leaning on the tyres a little more going into that turn. Now leaning round the right-hander, Darren Turner and the young driver Aston Martin. There's the Ford GT that is our race leader, Thomas Much. And he's hanging on to that race lead at the moment, but that's a cracking lap from Darren Turner that he's put in, and he's taken 1/10 of a second off the Ford's advantage. advantage. Still, though, hanging on in there, Peter Dumbreck, and Dumbreck getting a lot closer to the Aston Martin now as well, as we ride on board, and we see Dumbreck just shunting along the Aston Martin down the straight here. Look how Dumbreck has made up the time over the last 3 laps.
Yeah, Dumbreck's looking very quick here. Ooh, looks like the Aston Martin missed just... No, he made it through the apex, so he hasn't lost much time there. But the Nissan does look like the quickest out of the 3. But that Ford GT is definitely holding them up, because creeping up to the back of this top 3 is the number 10 Aston Martin, who is just setting faster lap times at the moment.
Yeah, running in nice clean air with no one around him. Clivio Piccioni is picking them off, but he's got quite an advantage to make up with 4 minutes and 19 seconds on the clock. 2.5 laps probably to go here. This is the Nissan GT, and the green shows you that Peter Dumbreck is charging through and putting Darren Turner under a huge amount of pressure. That's the time that he's made up, of course, on that Aston ahead of him. Meanwhile, Darren Turner had been gaining on the Ford GT, and I'm sure Thomas Much is absolutely delighted that Turner himself is coming under a bit of pressure. The Ford GT, great work to move up through the pit stops, and both that and the Aston Martin, their crews can consider it a job very well done indeed at the checkered flag today. But the Ford GT did the best of them all, moving up from 5th place into the lead spot. I tell you, if Thomas Enger hadn't have had that problem at the start, this Aston Martin, well, not this one, this is Clivio Piccioni we're riding on board with at the moment, but a young driver, Aston Martin, would be winning this by a canter.
Yeah, I agree. And look at the distance there. You can see the number 1 car, Maserati, is also coming up to join the fun, up in 5th position.
Yeah, a bit of smoke coming from the tyre, but it's not really slowing down Michael Bartels at the moment. As back on board with Peter Dumbreck we go, accelerating 6th gear to 160 miles an hour. And was Darren Turner just having a little look at the Ford, going through that 180-degree first corner, 90 miles an hour. Maybe thought about it a little bit. Hello, Roman. How are you this afternoon? Back to the Ford GT and his teammate Thomas Much from the Aston Martin, under pressure from Dumbreck. And what's the Ford GT doing on that side of the... Well, he went very far over to the right-hand side. Turner taking a much different line there just to defend Dumbreck behind him.
Yeah, Turner's going to be careful here, because Dumbreck is looking very racy, and he's going to take that 2nd position away from that Aston Martin if he's not careful.
2.5 minutes to go, and anything can still happen in the top 3 here for this championship race. GT1 racing at its finest this here in Brno this afternoon.
The Nissan looks actually very quick through turn 1. He's always able to put a bit of pressure on the Aston to turn 3. So Dumbreck's going to know that, so he's going to try and be really close coming at the last corner, so he can be really close to turn 1 and maybe have another go into turn 3.
Just a lap and a half to sort out the podium places here, with Piccioni waiting behind it all in case someone makes a mistake. And then the Maserati, yesterday's qualifying race winner of Michael Bartels, just stalking them in 5th, but he's too far back unless somebody makes a mistake at the moment. And Thomas Much has put together a very impressive lap here, hasn't put a foot wrong, and is extending his lead as they come round through the chicane and up the hill one more time.
This is the penultimate lap. Thomas Much just needs to keep his nose in front for just over 1 more lap to go, and he will win this race if he just keeps his nose clean.
Yeah, it's a big if though, isn't it? At this stage, when you're tired and your tyres are wearing, and it's been the end of a very long weekend, and the climax is there, and you can almost taste the champagne, you can almost see the checkered flag and smell the whiff of victory and adulation. I tell you what, this is going to be a very long lap indeed for Thomas Much.
Yeah, but I think he'll be okay, because it looks like the Aston is worried about that Nissan behind him. The Nissan's still very close, and Darren has to be careful that he doesn't lose that 2nd position.
Just seems to me at the moment the Nissan's a little bit too far back from Darren Turner to put him under too much pressure, but is Peter Dumbreck just biding his time as he looks after his tyres for a lap and a half or so to make one more daring-do move on this final lap. The advantage between Much in the Ford GT and Turner in the Aston Martin was 6/10 at the end of lap 27, and that's a massive 6/10 in such close racing here in Brno. A Ford GT on its way for a 2nd championship race win of the season. They triumphed in Abu Dhabi, and in the sunshine in Brno, they're about to triumph again, but who's going to finish in 2nd place? Dumbreck pushing the Aston Martin of Darren Turner through the A slow left-hander, turn 8, and then turn 9. Getting on the power now and accelerating to 155 miles an hour by the time they hit turn 10, the Schwantz corner.
And look how close that Maserati's got to the 4th position Aston Martin. That Maserati in 5th place is 2 seconds a lap quicker than the cars in front, and he's going to be right with them at the end of this lap.
Checker flag, I can see from our commentary box, and these 3, 4, 5 cars will see the checker flag in just a few seconds' time. Has Peter Dumbreck got one last move left in him? Can that Nissan, that Sumo Power Nissan, just wrestle second place from the young driver Aston Martin? It seems that it's not going to happen. There goes the Ford GT of Thomas Much. The checker flag is out for him for a second time in 2010. The Ford GT takes 25 championship points and wins in Brno from Aston Martin, from Nissan, from Aston Martin Hexus, and then comes the pole sitter, the Vitaphone Racing Team Maserati for 5th, with his teammate Miguel Ramos coming home in 6th. Then Lamborghini and Nissan crossing the line, and Corvette, sorry, the Nissan was a lap down, then comes Corvette from Aston Martin, and the Nissan GTR car number 3 of Henri Moser taking the final point in 10th place. But it was the pit stop swap won it for the Ford GT team, but Romain Grosjean and Thomas Much, well, just completed what their teammates in the garage had set up for them.
Yeah, very great start, very great race, action all the way through, and the top five cars so close together, right at the finishing line.
Wow, here it goes. Let's just see a quick replay of the start here, and just focus your eyes on the right hand the shot here, and a board coming out there. So as the lights went green, a board is shown, and I wonder if that's the mix-up that Thomas Enger was claiming here, that he was shown something to say that there would be one more lap behind the safety car, and that's why he backed off, and that's why we saw that Aston Martin heading down the field. This man won't care. Romain Grosjean, he's a race winner again, but if you're Enger and Turner, you know, your season once again is just, in a great car, starting to unravel a bit, and you're not picking up all the points you should be.
No, that's right. I mean, they should have won this race, really. But still, you know, second position is still a great result for them, and it'll help them move up through the championship table. But this car here, the Ford GT, is now comfortably leading the championship. There's 2 wins. They didn't score any points at Silverstone, but 2 wins now out of 3 races has set them up quite nicely. Very nicely indeed. If you're Thomas Enger, though, you know, he'll see those pictures of that board being shown that backs up what he was saying. I mean, what do you say as a race director? Do you say, okay, yeah, there was a mix-up, or do you say, yeah, it was shown, but the lights were green, mate? You've got to go for go by the lights. Yeah, I mean, it is a mix-up, and there's no way they can rectify it now. But as a driver, you should be looking at the lights. You shouldn't be looking at any boards. I mean, if I see a green, I go. You know, that's the only thing you should really be looking at. And truth be told, he's the only one that got caught out by it. Yeah, I've been in the car with you. I know that when the lights go green, you go. He did go eventually, and his teammate Darren Turner went up into second place. And then we had Aston Martin, Maserati and Maserati, Piccioni and Bartels and Ramos, 4th, 5th and 6th. Lamborghini, Corvette and Aston Martin with Schwager, Henrici and Sarrazin in his first weekend on duty in GT racing. And then the Nissan of Henri Moser coming home for the final points finish. And the rest were just scrapping over the minor places, really. Mike Heserman never really got to grips in that Corvette this afternoon. And they did allow the all-female duo to carry on racing. They got the car out for some much-needed track time. Jamie Campbell-Walter was a lap down in their Nissan. He and Warren Hughes had huge problems in the opening stint and on that opening lap. But the celebrations down at Nissan will be conducted by Peter Dumbreck and Michael Crum, getting onto the podium. I don't think their celebrations, though, will match what's going on at the Matec Ford GT team, as Houtz now steps into the arms of Romain Grosjean. Thomas Much, and a big round of applause from their teammates. Yeah, and it It really was a team effort for the Ford GT team. I mean, the two drivers did a superb job, but you know, nothing spectacular. They were such a quick pit stop. The team really won the race for them today because they came to that pit stop in position 5 and easily got out the pit lane quicker than anyone else.
Yeah, you called it right, didn't you? As behind the safety car, this could be the race right here. And with the team so closely packed together, that's exactly how it transpired. And we were all thinking, well, the Nissan guys are quite smart. The Aston Martin boys are quite smart. And to be fair, the Aston guys went from 10th to 2nd. So they probably made up more places.
Yeah, I mean, the Aston stop was great, but the Ford stop was equally as good, if not better. And congratulations to them. They're leading the championship now.
They certainly are, and they'll be walking off straight into the lens of our cameras in a moment. We'll hear from the race winners after we give the official classification. 0.7 of a second, the margin between that Ford GT and the young driver Aston Martin of Turner and Enger, with the Nissan GTR Sumo Power Nissan of Crum and Dumbrek nearly a second adrift in 3rd place. Then we had that Aston Martin Hexus pretty much racing on his own. Hershey and Piccioni a 2.5 seconds down. Then the two Maseratis, and whatever smoke, whatever reason we saw that smoke coming from Michael Bartel's front right tyre, it didn't affect him, and he got to the line to pick up more precious points. And as they said, consistency is absolutely everything in GT racing, and you've got to pick up the points wherever they are. They had a problem with a stop-go penalty, didn't they? But to come back and finish 5th after that, that's probably a good salvage operation from them.
Yes, a good recovery drive from the world champions, and I was amazed how quick that car was. You know, in the end, it was circulating 2 seconds a lap quicker than everyone else.
Congratulations, Roman. How was that race for you?
Well, it was very good. A difficult start, and Aston Martin hit me very hard in the first corner. I thought everything was broken, but at the end it was working, and then I had to find my imagination to overtake the other car because, well, we were missing a little bit of power, but having a very good chassis. So I tried twice in the last corners and once in the downhill. It was very good, and then the pit stop of the team was just fantastic. And Thomas then kept the pressure as he did in Abu Dhabi. So this is very good, and especially we have Synthes, all our sponsors here. And again, thank you to the team for the great job, and it's good for the championship.
And Thomas, back on the podium again.
Yeah, it's fantastic. We have to congratulate our team, our mechanics, which did amazing pit stop. We overtook all the cars in front of us, and Romain as well did after his first corner where he was a little bit in trouble, hit from the other cars, he said. Fantastic job. And then I was a little bit praying that I will not do a mistake because the Astons were much quicker on the straight, and finally we won, so great.
Thank you, guys.
Finally they won. For the 2nd time this season they've won. They are getting the winning habit, that Matec Ford GT team. Interesting what Roman Grosjean was saying there, that they might not have the power, but they've got a really good chassis to make up for that power loss.
Yeah.
Sorry, were you watching something else?
Yeah, power loss. I got that last bit. Yes, the Ford power loss was a problem, but it was a good chassis. So well done for them. As we go, let's listen to the guys who finished 2nd.
Congratulations, Darren. You must be thankful of the safety car.
Yeah, and the guys, young driver AMR did an absolutely sterling job in the pit stop. I mean, we gained so much. I think when Thomas came in, he was 12th or 10th or something. And we leapfrogged up to 2nd position once all the pit stops had sorted themselves out. So the guys, this result is definitely for the team. They did a great job, and it's just thankful because obviously Thomas had some issues at the start which confused everything, and we managed to claw it back and get a 2nd and be on the podium. So for Thomas at his home race, it's fantastic.
Thank you, guys.
Now that's proper teammates, that is. Alex getting a kiss from his man as well. And I don't think Thomas Enger wants to say a huge amount else.
Well, they're obviously very, very close.
So this is the 3-2-1, Ford, Aston Martin and Nissan. Equally as close on the track as the two Aston Martin teammates.
It was good seeing all top 5 cars just finishing just within seconds of each other, so it was good stuff. You know, the Aston did have a couple of looks at the Ford GT, but you know, just wasn't quick enough, wasn't quite quick enough over the lap to do it.
The Ford looking very, very nice indeed through that first turn, always on a great line through there, looking very stable indeed. Here we see it under braking going into that final chicane. There's nothing twitchy, there's nothing leery, nothing skittish about that Ford GT car, is there?
Yeah. Now, if I was the Ford team, I'd be asking for slightly bigger restrictors for the next race, though, because they did seem a little bit slow down the straight, but they've obviously got a very well-sorted car, just like the Maserati, really.
And so, time for the spectators to pack up their blankets and picnics and head off back to Brno, Czechoslovakia's or Czech Republic's second largest city, where I'm sure there's an awful lot to entertain them this evening. Meanwhile, we have a podium celebration to attend to, and Thomas Enger and Roman Grosjean maybe just going over the start once again. Michael Crum and Peter Dumbrick.
Yep, they drove really well. The pace of that Nissan was very good as well. So they'll be very happy with the job they've done.
Round of applause from the team. As onto the podium comes Dumbrick and Crum, closely followed by Darren Turner and Thomas Enger, who could have had this victory today. They could have beaten the 4G team. They didn't, but they do pick up 18 points, which is important. This is the first weekend they've actually picked up points in the championship race. But these boys, you know, 2 wins out of 3. They're going to take some stopping at this rate.
Yeah, they are. They're doing, you know, what can we say about them? You know, it's going to be a very interesting fight between the Fords, the Maseratis, and the Aston Martins.
The Swiss national anthem for the Matek competition for GT team. And do you know what? You've followed Romain Grosjean around in Formula 1 for a year and a half, and I never saw him smile as much as he smiled here this weekend after this victory, and as much as he smiled at Abu Dhabi after his victory there. Minister of Justice for the Czech Republic presenting the trophies here. Welcome, Mrs. Daniela Kovalova, and handing over the trophies for third, second and first.
Allows her to get a bit of a kiss there as well. I'm sure she's very happy. But this is GT racing, you know, that's what makes GT racing good. You know, it's such a good environment, a lot of fun, and great to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting, you know, here's Grosjean, yeah, had a season and a half at Renault in F1 where all the weight of the world's problems, or Flavio Briatore and Fernando Alonso, seemed to fall on his shoulders, and it just didn't work for him. But he's, you know, back racing in a series that he feels very much at home at, and proving that he is a decent driver and can take him on.
Yeah, well, Grosjean has one of the best CVs you ever see of a young driver getting to Formula 1. He just went into a very difficult situation against possibly the best driver in the world, and now he's enjoying it, you know, because we know he's going to be quick in whatever he does.
And he's got to the champagne first as well, and Thomas Enger was caught napping. It's a bit like the start of the race. Enger didn't have his champagne in the hand, and he got a bit of a drenching before he could retaliate. And now the boys can let it loose after a hard weekend's racing here in Brno. Time to spray the champagne after a championship race and an hour's race that was full of dramatic incident from start to finish.
Yeah, we both need a luck.
Alongside me, Formula Wet, Nicky Pastorelli. So from the grid, it should have been the Maseratis leading them away, and that's how it was. Thomas Enger, though, was he caught napping? Watch the right of the screen, there's a board. He saw it, he stopped.
No one else saw it, and they all went. And so Thomas Enger had the worst start I've ever seen in a rolling start.
Grosjean got a tap, and then the 2 ladies got a tap, also in the Ford GT, and we saw the Lamborghini going off. And then we had this scrap. Baz Liners getting very unhappy indeed with the 33 of Alexander Margaritis.
Yes, not happy chap indeed. And then after the safety car came in, well, the safety car came out obviously for the incident, and everyone had to come in for the pit stops. So everyone came for the pit stops, all the big boys did. It was a big kerfuffle, but the Ford GT had a great start, a great pit stop, came out in the lead, and also the Aston Martins had a great stop and came out in second place.
Ford GT moving up from 5th to 1st, and the Aston from 10th to 2nd. Then the Maseratis, which should have been caught out by the pit stop somewhat, barged their way past the Lamborghini to move up into 5th and 6th place. Some worrying, nervy moments with that smoke, but it all didn't stop Michael Bartels in his tracks, and no one could stop Thomas Much in his tracks, despite the Aston Martin and the Sumo Nissan trying their hardest and pushing it all the way. Thomas Enger will reflect on that start and think, well, this could have been our win today. Ford GT will reflect on a job well done, and it's 2 out of 3 in championship races for the Matek Ford GT team, who are looking a force to be reckoned with in GT1 racing in 2010.
I have to say that Thomas Enger and that Aston Martin, it is his home race. He'll be very happy in second, and I think he should feel like he got out of jail, you know, after that start. And a great finish, top 5, really close. Look at him, he looks like he got out of jail.
Yeah, that's a could have been worse smile, isn't it, ladies and gentlemen? And that is a victory smile that we're getting used to seeing, and a victory wave and a victory thumbs up for Romain Grosjean and Thomas Much, who know the way to spot number 1 in Parc Fermé.